Hello! This is Anna from Pretty Shepherd, and today I'm going to show you an early Victorian hairstyle. Looking through fashion plates, I've only found a couple of years when this kind of hairstyle was in fashion, a very brief period from 1838 until 1843. But in this couple of years, this hairstyle was quite well represented. Just that it was represented in the fashion plates for 5 years doesn't mean that people didn't wear them afterwards. I did find a couple of daguerreotypes that showed women with a very similar hairstyle. And when I say this hairstyle, I actually am referring a lot more to the front of my hair than to the back of it, because these kinds of braided dog ears, as some called them, even at the time, yes, even at the time they were making jokes that these looked like dog ears. So basically, the dog ears that women wore before there were Instagram filters. Seriously, if you come up with a better name for it, please leave it in the comments below. I would love to find out. The overall look that I decided to go for is actually inspired by a lithograph of a woman called Margaret. For the back, I decided to go for a very low bun as it was fashionable in the early 1840s. These dog ears are created by braiding a multiple strand braid. 7 and 9 seem to be quite usual when I looked very closely at some of the depictions, but I'm almost certain that they went up to really crazy numbers like 13 or 15 strands or even more. Another reason why I went for 7 is that I can handle it. These ladies, they probably had some sort of help. They might have had a maid to dress their hair, or if they weren't so well off as to have a maid, they might have had their mothers or sisters or mothers-in-law help them with their hair. Whereas I did it on my own. As I was doing my research in this hairstyle, I came to observe how the parted hair in the front was a really big chunk of one's hair. It was, I think it's over half of it. Whereas normally I would take sections from my ear upward, kind of as a straight line. For this hairstyle, we're going all the way back. Before I start working on the braids in the front, I'm going to tie the back into a ponytail, quite low. To get that perfectly smooth type of braid that was in vogue at the time, we're going to use some oil. I've seen different sources recommending to work the oil in with your hands, a comb, or a brush. I'm just going to section this off into 7 pieces. Since we want this braid to go slightly backwards to cover the ear, we're going to pull all of the strands after we've made Oh my god, does that make sense? This is so freaking complicated. So for the front of the hair, I'm just going to do a 7 strand braid. If you don't know how to braid with 7 strands, I will link through to a video where I show you how to do just that. Here, you can see how I'm pulling at the strands to make them lay in the direction that I want them to. This helps avoid those little puffs that you would get at the roots if you weren't careful enough. And now the same on the other side. You can see how I'm kind of feeling the way with my index finger and pointing through and then pulling the strand through that little path that I've created. I'm going to clip these out of the way for now. Now that we have these two halfway through braided, we can tackle the bun. For that, I'm just going to do a simple English braid. And now I'm going to coil it up into a bun. Make sure that you're not laying the braid flat, but on its side. To fix it in place, you can use bobby pins or U-pins, which are more period accurate. In the picture, it looks like her bun has somewhat more of a height or volume towards the back, so it's thicker in this direction, which leads me to believe that perhaps her bun was also braided in a multi-strand braid. But what I am going to do instead is finish off these braids and wrap them around the exterior of the bun, also hiding away the really long ends of my hair, which would have been a lot more shorter for a Victorian woman who was keeping her hair at a fashionable length for these kind of hairstyles. I've approximated the length that I want to keep next to my ear, and then also the length that I can wrap around the bun with it nicely showing. And whatever was left, I finished off with a simple English braid. With both of these done, we can finally set the rest of the hairstyle. And there's quite a few options of what you can do with these hairs and how you can fold them. Something that I came across almost all of the examples is that on the fashion plates, the women have this braid close to the base of their hair, and then it kind of curves out and then takes the fold and goes that way. So there's this S shape, which we are going to achieve by pulling the braid a little bit apart. It's actually better to start at the ends of the hair and then work your way up. Over here it's quite compact now, and then it widens out, so it creates a little bit of that aesthetic. I think they actually used some sort of tool, maybe a comb or some sort of pin or clip, I don't know for sure. You can see that that hair utensil keeps the hair very smooth on the top, and then the braids come very evenly. On most of these fashion plates, the bottom of the dog ear is quite straight and parallel to the ground, but on some of them you can see kind of a sloped angle. That's what I'm going to do. This kind of woven pattern is very easy to maneuver, and it's quite malleable, so you can set it into certain positions and it's going to stay like that within reason. Now that I've decided how I want it, I'm going to pin it for good, just using some of these U-pins. And now we're left with the two ends of the braids. Kind of sandwich them in between the bun and the multiple strand braid. So here it is! Here's the finished look! You could also add a decorative comb to it. Other kinds of accessories could include bows, flowers, or my personal favorite, necklaces doubling as headbands. The more historically accurate way to accessorize with flowers would be with a kind of band that would have flowers hanging, especially on the two sides, and sometimes hanging even lower. And hopefully sometime in the future I will have a video up about how to make one of those. I always think of the 1940s as kind of a transitional period between the crazy 30s hairstyles and puff sleeves and everything else that was going on in there, and then the more Puritan Victorian aesthetic. This is a very great example of a transitional hairstyle, in my opinion, because it still creates a very striking silhouette for the face, and it's not an overly decorated Apollo knot, but it's still special. It has this really interesting texture and everything. I think there should be more of this hairstyle. I'm genuinely surprised this hairstyle only stuck around for such a short time, but well, that's the whole point of transitional hairstyles, I guess. If you've enjoyed this video, you can let me know by leaving a thumbs up. And if you're interested in even more tutorials infused with history, such as this one, then you can subscribe to my channel, as I plan to put out new videos every week. Bye-bye!